Hey everyone, Shinier Detailing, Rome, Georgia. Today we've got a 2021 Lexus IS350F Sport, and we're going to be doing a full detail interior and exterior and a 1-year ceramic coating. So stay until the end to see the entire process and the results. Let's go. First I'm going to start by emptying the car of all the trash, then I'm going to pull out all the mats. I blow them all off with my Tornador, which is the air gun. Then I start my wipe down process, so I'll be wiping down all the surfaces and getting in all the cracks. After that, we're going to vacuum the carpets and the entire interior inside the trunk. And then after that, for that final popping touch, we give the mats these lines using this brush. It only takes a few seconds and it gives a really nice presentation at the end. When the mats are done, I'll put them all back inside. Starting off with the exterior, we start off with the wheels. First I foam all the wheels, which will break down all the brake dust. And then pressure wash it all off after it sits for a couple minutes. It gets most of the surface grime and brake dust off. Then I'll foam the tires again, and then start the contact. Starting with the hard bristle brush on the tires. And it's also very important to have a separate bucket for the wheels because brake dust is adhesive. So now I am using a softer brush to go in all the spokes. And finally washing it down with the pressure washer. And then we move on to the next wheel and repeat. After the wheels are done, I'll start with my pre-rinse. So I use rinseless wash, diluted 256:1, and apply it to the entire surface. And the rinseless wash will emulsify all the dirt on the surface and break it down. And then after we let it sit for a couple minutes, we'll pressure wash all that surface grime off. This makes the contact hand wash a lot safer because you're not carrying around grit in your mitt. So now I'll be starting with the actual contact wash. I will apply rinseless wash all over the panels once again to give lubrication. And then I will take my sponge and start hand washing the vehicle. This sponge picks up all the dirt and lifts it up into all the cracks inside the sponge and is really effective at cleaning. And then after that's done, I will wash everything off again. And then we'll move to the other side, repeating the exact same process. So now we're going to start with the clay decontamination process. So spraying one spray of iron decontamination onto the towel and one onto the surface, and then claying the entire surface. And then it's very important to wash off all the iron remains because if they dry into the surface, they'll etch into the paint. So just spraying all the iron off. And now you can see it's already beating a lot better because of the clay decontamination. Continuing with the clay mitt. The difference between this and a clay bar is a clay bar you only use once and then you have to throw it out. With this clay mitt, you can use it multiple times and it's just as effective. And then rinsing everything off. And now we are going to dry the entire car. So taking the plush drying towel, which just soaks up the water super nicely, and it's super satisfying also. Just soaking up all those water beads on the roof, glass, drying the entire car. It's super important to make sure you dry because if you don't, then they'll leave water spots. Wherever the water droplets dry, there'll be small mineral etching. finishing up the roof, making sure all the water's out of the cracks. So now that everything is dry, we're going to start prepping for the actual ceramic coating. So what I'm doing is I am applying a panel prep, which is like an alcohol-based solution, and it basically will remove any polishes or residue of anything to ensure that the surface is completely clean before we apply the ceramic coating. On the glass, the paint, everywhere, you want to make sure that the surface is completely clean, since the ceramic coating will just lock the paint in. One thing I'm going to do now is just make sure that there's no water drips inside of the door jambs, because if anything drips out on the bottom of the car or ceramic coating, the water will mess up the application of the ceramic coating. So we need to just make sure that there's absolutely no water beads anywhere at all. Alright, so now that the prepping is done, we're going to start with the actual ceramic coating. So we have an applicator, and then we drop the ceramic solution onto the applicator, and then we are going to rub the applicator all over the surface. As you can see, I'm using circular motions because when you do straight lines, then it'll leave end marks where you stop and then you start again. We're just going to apply this all over on every panel. The ceramic coating, not only does it make the paint really glossy, but it also protects these surfaces from UV, stops the clear coat from fading, and it also makes it easier to clean and stays cleaner longer. Basically what it does is making the paint super slick, and so everything just rolls off of it, whether it's dirt, water, anything. And after we actually apply the ceramic coating with the applicator, as you can see, we buff it off with the towel to make sure that there's no excess liquid. And as you can see, it's already getting super glossy. Now finishing off with the windows, and then leveling out the coating with the towels. And finally, the last step is tire dressing. My favorite part of the detail. It gives it that fresh pop to the vehicle. And so here's the final results. Enjoy!